basically maybe not the same availability of capital for startups as seen in the past couple of years. And lastly, the challenge is regulation. From my point of view, especially looking at fintech, a regulatory heavy environment. There, I would often hope for a more proactive regulator, especially having the view now from the UK, where I would say the FCA, the financial regulator, is behaving a bit more proactively compared to, say, the BaFin in Germany. But I hope that this, competition between regulators will also force European regulators or German, Belgium, Luxembourg regulators to be more proactive in the future to keep a competitive edge. And also looking at maybe the changing economic environment. Many people maybe think that it's getting more challenging for startups, but I think that that there's always also in recessions or economic downturns, there are always a lot of opportunities to innovate, to disrupt, and to build new products. And I think in general that startups that have a good product market fit and solve a real customer need can always succeed in every economic environment. But of course, all entrepreneurs have to adapt to the changing macro environment.
Thank you, Matteo. I think you covered already also a good number of arguments which will be relevant for our discussion. Great introduction to that point. As said, then we are very happy to have Ms. Nandita Prakash with us. She's Indian, now is located in London. Basically, she is a fintech enthusiast and is currently working as fintech research analyst at Fintech Global. In that way, she's also pursuing her master's degree in fintech and business analytics at the University of Westminster, London. And she worked before and in parallel already with PricewaterhouseCoopers, PayPal, and has a lot of expertise collected already in financial consulting, FinCrime, as well as risk and compliance. A lot what you bring to the table. I also read and hear from you that you have done a lot of research when it comes to industry research. I think that will also be relevant when we look into this specific region. But as I said, everybody should have the chance to first make his own introduction. Nandita, if you would take over here and also share your first view, please.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Hello, everyone. I'm Nandita, and I am a master's degree student in University of Westminster, as Marcus said. And it's a very exciting time for fintech. So yeah, that's why I'm into researching about the field of fintech in specific, and also for all the sectors post pandemic. I would say, especially in the developed countries, there is a huge opportunity for new startups to start their businesses or come up with disruptive ideas. So that's what we have seen in the fintech sector as well. Like for every things changed post the pandemic, so everything has been virtual now and it's going digital, and we need faster and better solutions for whatever we do in a day-to-day life. And if we look at the finance sector, we are moving towards cashless economy. So in that sense, we have a lot of scope for new startups to emerge, and with the help of established governments like the developed countries like Develux, there is a huge opportunity, and the governments can support with all the requirements for the startups. And regarding the technology itself, we are heading towards a fast-paced change in the technology, and we see that there are a lot of advancements in every aspect of technology in terms of AI, machine learning, or any other sector, like even for natural language processing. So everything is going digital, and it's a huge exciting opportunity for a lot of startups, because there are many sectors where there is need for innovation, and we see that a lot of startups are emerging too. And for me, it's been very exciting to be in London, where it's a startup hub. And I also I'm from Bangalore, which is like a startup capital of India. So yeah, I've been like I've worked with few startups in the past. So it's really nice to be in these kind of webinars to share my insights. So yeah, looking forward for a great one. Over to you, Marcus.
Thank you again. Yeah, with this, I would propose to enter into some general questions. So the way and how we have prepared for the webinar is that also the speakers have provided a few questions to bring in their specific insights, their specific know-how, also their opinion. But I would like to start first with some overarching question, and perhaps, if I may, to start with Daniel first. So when we look into the region of Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, and what do you think are the main investment business criteria, and why it ranks so high at the moment? Perhaps not, but because we hear there are also different circumstances. I think also Matteo was lining out here, especially when it comes to regulation. But so what do you think are the really big advantages, and perhaps the top three, and what are the disadvantages also to see on what we need to improve? Could you start with that? Is that easy?
Yes. No, that's a $1 million question. Hopefully you can hear me all right. So
yeah, it breaks up a bit, but I think it works good enough to hear you well. Super. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think in the run, the fintech run that we've experienced since probably the Great Recession, it's all about providing as much people as systems were ruined by the with proper tools that accommodate the latest instruments of technology, and to try and use technology to scale the new business models of what we know. Into the far beyond.
Daniel, at least, sorry to interrupt, at least at the moment I have a bit of a problem. So your camera went off. Can you try that in one more time? And I pass the word back to you in a moment.
Yeah.
That without camera, if the connection is not good enough, that can you just continue? But if not, please dial in one more time, and I will pass then the word to another speaker for the moment.
I think it'd be
yeah. Matteo, let's continue. Perhaps if you look into the region of Benelux, as said, what do you think makes the region so attractive? If you look into the top three criteria, and I think you brought a number of disadvantages also as such, but if you could detail already a bit, and then please.
Yes, of course. As I said, I outlined some disadvantages, but of course the region has massive opportunities and massive benefits. For one, I would say is the already advanced startup ecosystem. When you look at startup clusters, I would say probably Berlin is the largest one, but there are a lot of regional clusters around around different topics, and I think that this network and ecosystem getting advice from fellow founders, also having good access to capital and investors. I think those are huge advantages. And as I also said in my introductory speech, was that the ease of expanding to different countries thanks to the European single market. I think that is quite attractive to entrepreneurs. And lastly, one more point I think is a huge advantage is that like those three countries with a quite well-established economy and big incumbent corporations who also started in the last decade, I'd say, to be more open to partner with startups and opened incubators, VC departments, and the like. So there is also a massive opportunity to benefit from partnerships with incumbent companies. Marcus, you're on mute, I think.
I was told to unmute because my keyboard was being heard while typing some information in the chat. So thanks for that advice. Daniel, just would like to give the word back to you as you go out.
Sorry.
And then go
had to switch to different network. So I'll try to build on what Matteo just said. So it's all about scale. So what I was trying to say before my line went down, it's all about the easiness to scale, to transcend the borders of all countries and enter new regions. So on one hand, the advantage of the European market was that there were a number of legislation approved and then enacted that would have allowed you to use different fintech bridges or to use standards, because it's like the whole world was enamored by the legislation progress of the PSD2 and what it promised. But on the backside, on the flip side, we saw how poorly the bureaucratic knowledge or the wording was then commercialized and used. We saw the emergence of several lobbying groups all bickering between one another as to how one implement PSD2. How would new startups will have to connect to the bank members of these different lobbying groups with regards to payment initiation or account information services. And we now see that it's actually the piracy, the pirate way of scraping the data, the one that Europe wasn't willing to allow, and the German lobby and the BaFin was particularly unhappy about. Now we see as how Plaid and US-born startups or dealing in account aggregation enter the European market and providing these already scaled tools. So scale is important. So on one hand, we have the advantage of the single market. On the flip side, we have still certain bureaucratic ways that prohibit or inhibit growth. And I think Matteo himself can tell a good story about how Number 26 tried to build so on one hand, you have the potential exposure of a beautiful neobanking service to expand in Latin America. So it tells you something.
Thank you, Daniel. Let me move to Nandita. To also open that discussion, I think as you sit, and I also have perhaps a bit again. Well, Matteo is German, but also sits in Edinburgh. You sit directly in UK. How do you regard then the startup scene in Benelux from UK Brexit perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Marcus. So yeah, regarding the the opportunities for startups in Benelux, the German market, if we see, so there are a lot of talents which are available ready in the market. So you have the natural the team ready, and then you have the financing from the government which is available for the new startup ideas. So that is the other thing which is like an advantage of this region, where you can easily start a business with the available which are readily available. The resources are readily available in these regions to start something new. And regarding the opportunities, I to add on to what Daniel said, that there has been open banking which has been introduced in the European market, so which is a huge opportunity for a lot of startups to come up with the solutions. So like to compete with the US markets, as we see, or the UK markets. So which is a great opportunity, I mean, which is where you can create new come up with new ideas with the disruptive technologies like data analytics, which is in boom right now. So so things like this are readily available in regions like Benelux. So I would say that these are the opportunities which we see in these countries. But however, when compared to the UK market, as Matthew previously mentioned about FCA, so here the regulators are more proactive, and they have they encourage the startups, because any startup in terms of regulation especially, they would need guidance before they start something new, or it should be monitored very carefully, since it's about data privacy and so many other things with regards to regulations. So in UK, as we see, there is a lot of support from the government. So I think that is what is lacking currently from the Benelux countries. But however, in terms of Luxembourg, it's very interesting that they have a lot of opportunities like House of Startups, and they want to be a startup nation. So things like that, they are encouraging people to come up with their own ideas and have their own startups. So however, if we see if the government continue to encourage startups like this, like how it has been in other countries like UK and USA, it would be great opportunity for people to start their own businesses.
Thank you, Nandita. Yeah, I think there's also some connection of the topic as you speak to where UTech comes from. So our chairman Florian von Tucher was 10 years in China before he started in 2015 to set up the UTech Chamber, and he saw how quickly that economy is developing, also how many digital solutions are being prepared, and then we see also on the contrary on the United States, the Big Four, which have great influence on global market development, also in other sectors. And so we thought that with UTech, we can also help to the European industry, and also, of course, the Benelux region to help and to grow with digital solutions. And yeah, I think, Daniel, when you asked or put down a question, perhaps there's also some reference to that point. You said or asked me to raise the following question: what startups of the region need to learn, prepare to stand out in the competition with other contenders for increasingly screwed capital? So there are two elements: the finance aspect, but there's also, I think, the potential for scale and significant scale, because these digital business models, I think, even require a faster growing pace than other sectors. Could you refer to that, perhaps?
Yes, so it's like a double-edged sword, whereby with the first idea of starting a company, you already need to think of how you would entice and excite the investors, and then excite the end users, because the harder it is for you to grow, the more capital you have to raise, while fending off the question as well whether you were
Daniel? Daniel? Daniel, hello, do you hear us? Let's give him 1 second. I hope he's with us in a moment. Is that well, then I would wait for Daniel and would first go back to Nandita, because I think you addressed that point a bit more than Matteo. So if you could refer to that question. So do we have, let's say, the right startups in place to have and to identify the right growth potentials, the right business models, or is there something what you miss because you see in UK there are different types of business models which are running faster, so to say?
Yeah. To answer that, Marcus. So, in terms of business models, the startups need to have an idea which is very different and innovative, and more importantly, scalable. So, if you have a great creative idea, and it is very essential that how people build around that idea to solve the challenges which are in the market. So it takes a lot of research to understand what kind of market trends and what kind of customer needs are there in the market. So in terms of finance specifically, we see that everybody has moved to mobile banking or payment services where you don't need to use cash. And especially in terms of mobile banking, we see that in UK especially, you can open a bank account sitting at home. So which is really an exciting thing, because like how we have experienced the traditional banking system is that you actually go into a bank and you produce your documents, and then it goes through a lot of verifications. But due to the technology, it has become so much simpler, and you upload it's all online, and there are softwares which can read your documents. Like natural language processing is the technology which they are using these days to do that. And the overall process is online, and it gives an amazing customer experience, which is the key to any business. So in terms of payments, also what we are seeing these days is like emergence of new neobanks, and also the payment apps, which are very much convenient than the traditional bank transfers. And also you also, it's not just that, you also get an insight of your spendings and how much you're spending where, and they give you analytics on how you can invest. And there are a lot of exciting things around these areas related to data analytics and artificial intelligence and natural language processing, things like that. And more excitingly, blockchain, which is the latest trend which has come, and it actually has a lot of potential in terms of in the regulatory space especially. So these kind of areas which we see, and it is very that is what customers expect. So if the entrepreneurs look at these kind of areas, and they do a lot of market research around it and come up with a business idea and actually make it scalable, it would be an amazing opportunity for a startup to grow and flourish in Develux.
Thank you. Very good to see a bit the UK perspective and Indian perspective on top, where you're fast moving as well towards Develux. Daniel, you are back. Let me pass the word first back to you. I hope the connectivity is okay again, and then going to Matteo with the next question.
Yes, so I don't know where you lost me. So
pretty early, unfortunately.
So I'll probably need to start again. So my point is that by setting up a company, you need to think about how you would attract customers, and how you then will defend your strategy in the eyes of those investors to whom you're pitching your idea. And lately, we've been too much focused on growth. It was all about growth, just deploying the negative interest capital into expanding into as many jurisdictions as possible and providing a service pretty much on global scale. We still don't know, out of these many beautiful neobanks that compete with one another and other services related to money remittance, as how they make the money back. And we already saw as well how, the bubble, the unregulated bubble, about providing stable coins and giving people interest that they supposedly earn. And that was also paid out of the coffers of the venture interest, how that flopped. So we're still yet to see as to how stable you would become, having built a global financial technology infrastructure while following all those rigorous compliance requirements that we still have to observe as a business if we're building one. So going back probably to the subject of startup opportunities and DBLUX, we either can use the advantages that the national economies of the region by themselves possess to try and understand what strategic opportunity would it give to you in the current environment, say, of the combined Western democracy while fighting off the autocratic regimes, cutting off the supply of commodities, whether you would potentially, and I propose this as a provocative question, whether we would want to switch from the growth agenda to a stable state agenda, trying to drive efficiency versus growth, and how would that cater and be of interest, to the legislation, to the corporate realm of the region, and try to build something meaningful for the next wave, using this as a platform.